I couldn't afford to lend money to an inept craftsman drowning in debt. He had to repay the full $500,000 by the end of the month. That's when Wilson, a new loan officer, arrived at my office. I had been a craftsman for 35 years, and she immediately demanded full repayment of the loan. Lending money to an elderly woman working in an office on the verge of collapse due to debt doesn't ensure repayment. You'd better pay it all back while you still can, she said brusquely. Wilson's rude behavior made me furious. Fine, I'll repay the $500,000 in full, I snapped. But you'll regret this, I muttered under my breath. Wilson burst into laughter, clutching her stomach. A lousy banker like you? You'll definitely regret this, she scoffed. Ignoring her laughter, I declared my quiet retaliation against Wilson. My name is Smith, and at 60 years old, I'm still active as a gardener. I started at Smith Landscape Design 35 years ago, and now run the company as president. I joined after high school, working under my father's management. Becoming a skilled gardener takes years of artisanal skill. I took over as president 10 years ago when my father, the previous president, fell ill with stomach cancer. In the past, most homes had gardens, but now, with the rise of condos and apartments, demand for gardeners has dwindled. Despite this, neither my father nor I considered quitting. Some homeowners, particularly the elderly, struggle with back pain and unsteady legs, making it hard to tend their gardens. Although our business temporarily declined, rivals closing down have secured our customer base. I'm determined to continue developing our beloved landscaping company, cherished by the community. Even at 60, I'm still active and plan to stabilize the business so my children can take over confidently one day. Then, one day, a banker named Brown visited my office. Brown had been our loan officer since my father's presidency. I'm sorry to say this on a personal note, but I decided to retire, Brown said politely, introducing Wilson as his successor. Wilson, a young woman in her 20s, greeted me briefly. Despite my greeting, she remained silent, and small talk with Brown filled the air. Wilson later visited our office alone. Hello, I'm Wilson from Trust Bank. My boss asked me to meet our customers, so here I am, she said, catching me off guard with her demeanor, leaving me speechless. I pondered the appropriateness of a client bluntly stating they were visiting because their boss had instructed them to do so. Thank you for taking the time to come here, I said with a forced smile. Wilson's response was a glare of annoyance. What's with that tone? Are you implying I shouldn't have come? She retorted sharply. No, it's not that. It's just unusual to hear someone admit they're visiting on orders from their boss, I replied, irritated by Wilson's presumptuous attitude. I was simply stating the facts. Anyway, I'm busy and don't have time for meaningless exchanges like this, I added, as Wilson abruptly ended the conversation and left. In all my 60 years of life, I had never encountered such rudeness. After Wilson departed, I was left momentarily stunned, wondering if it had all been a dream or some sort of illusion. Within a week, Wilson returned to our office. As soon as she arrived, her face flushed with anger, and she started yelling at me. You apologize to me right now. If you sincerely apologize, I won't involve the police. I'll settle this matter without them. I'm sorry, I have no idea what you're talking about. Can you please explain? I replied, genuinely puzzled by her outburst. Don't play dumb. An employee of yours extorted $100,000 from my grandmother for unsolicited garden maintenance and instructed her to transfer it to a specified account. Wilson accused vehemently. I was taken aback by the serious allegation against our employee. Our company only accepts cash payments directly from customers upon completion of our work. We would never instruct a customer to transfer money to any account. Do you have any proof that an employee of ours did this? I retorted firmly. Wilson's response was equally forceful. My grandmother clearly stated that someone named Williams from Smith Landscape Design contacted her, deceived her, and took $100,000. As the president, it's your responsibility to address this. Despite her accusation, I knew there was no one named Williams in our company. Please give me a moment to check, I said calmly, excusing myself to retrieve the employee roster from the office, mindful of privacy concerns. I can't show you any evidence, but I've confirmed there is no one named Williams employed with us, I explained calmly. Oh, I see. You're determined to evade responsibility. If that's how you want to play it, I'll devise a strategy, Wilson retorted sharply before leaving. I couldn't shake off the unsettling feeling about what Wilson might be plotting. Her face haunted my thoughts, whether awake or asleep. A few days later, Wilson returned to my office with a demanding tone. I can't lend money to an incompetent craftsman buried in debt. Repay the full $500,000 by the end of this month, she stated firmly upon arrival. Her directive didn't appear to be from the bank. Could this be her own decision? I asked calmly, why do you believe our office is in deficit? And why must the entire loan amount be repaid this month? Please explain. Wilson responded disrespectfully, smiling condescendingly. As the president, it's obvious your company is in the red. Moreover, there's little demand for landscaping nowadays. You'd better repay it all while you still can. Then, Wilson whispered something even more shocking in my ear. That's just the official reason. If you repay the $500,000, 5 times the $100,000 my grandmother supposedly lost, I'll drop the matter. Her outrageous behavior triggered my anger. Fine, I'll repay the $500,000 in full, I agreed through gritted teeth. But you'll regret this. Wilson burst into laughter. It's you who will regret it, old lady. Can you even manage to repay $500,000 in full? You'll soon see. Quietly seething with anger, I declared my retaliation against Wilson. Ignoring her laughter echoing in the room, I prepared for the next day. I called the bank and spoke to a customer service representative. Hello, this is Smith. Thank you for your ongoing support. Could you please ask Loan Officer Wilson to stop visiting my office? It's causing us trouble. I'm terribly sorry. The branch manager will come to your location right away, the representative assured me before apologizing and preparing to end the call. As I listened, I overheard another nearby bank employee muttering, "Her again? How many times is this now?" It seemed Wilson might be repeating similar actions with other clients. Stepping outside my office, I found Wilson waiting for me. "Oh, there you are. Hiding won't help. If you don't want to be reported to the police, sign these papers now," she demanded, thrusting termination documents for a loan agreement toward me. "Is this the bank's decision or just yours?" I asked calmly. "My opinion is the bank's opinion, obviously. Anyway, a fraud like you has no right to complain. Just sign it," Wilson retorted aggressively. "I have just called the bank. The branch manager is on his way, and I'll sign it then," I replied firmly. Wilson's face paled. "What? Why did you call the bank? I thought you were trying to avoid me by staying in your office." "When did I say I was trying to avoid you?" I countered, watching Wilson visibly unsettled and looking as if she wanted to escape. At that moment, a bike pulled up behind Wilson, and I ushered in the branch manager who had just arrived. He entered with a worried expression, guiding Wilson into our office's reception area. I apologized sincerely for the inappropriate behavior of our staff member, Wilson. "It's inexcusable," the manager addressed me politely before turning sharply to Wilson. "Why would you treat one of our most valued customers who has always supported our bank like this? But this person is a fraud. She scammed $100,000 from my grandmother." Wilson protested, even as the manager scolded her. Despite the manager's intervention, Wilson continued to portray me as the villain in the situation. I detailed Wilson's actions to the branch manager, who then addressed Wilson directly. "If you heard your own grandmother had been scammed, would you go directly to the scammer to complain? Wouldn't you normally report it to the police first?" The manager's words struck a chord with me in my distraught state. "Could you calmly report it to the police if your own family was scammed without hesitation?" "I doubt you could," the manager added, noting Wilson's defiant attitude. The manager's words seemed to penetrate Wilson deeply. "If you check the customer's information, you'll see that Smith is a valued client. Besides, there's no one named Williams on Smith Landscape Design's employee roster. It's plausible that an outsider pretended to be an employee and made that call," the manager continued. Wilson's expression shifted suddenly as she fell silent, seemingly realizing the possibility of an outsider's involvement. We confirmed Wilson's grandmother's name and address, finding no record of any landscaping requests from her. Moreover, her grandmother lived in public housing, where we wouldn't undertake any work unless specifically requested by local authorities. In any case, shouldn't the first step be to report this to the police? I interjected, noticing Wilson flinch but continued to anxiously watch the branch manager. It's unbelievable that an outsider could have done this, but terminating a $500,000 loan isn't a trivial matter. I pointed out, "You make a fuss over your grandmother being scammed out of $100,000, but you think terminating a loan 5 times that amount is no big deal?" Wilson's defiant glare at the manager seemed to waver, realizing it was best to remain silent. "Wilson, despite your education, failing to understand basic principles like consulting with and getting approval from the branch manager before making such decisions disqualifies you from continuing as a banker," the manager stated firmly. "We will take strict disciplinary action." With that, the manager apologized to me and escorted Wilson away, almost pulling her along by the collar. Reflecting on my past interactions with the bank, I realized our company wasn't currently facing cash flow issues. We mainly took loans to maintain our relationship with the bank. Initially, I didn't understand why we borrowed money when it wasn't necessary. However, my father, who founded Smith Landscape Design, had faced financial crises in the past. Each time, it was the banks we had good relationships with that provided crucial assistance. "Banks have lending targets to meet," my father once explained. "But when a business struggles and seeks help, banks often hesitate if the outlook is poor. Taking loans when we don't urgently need them helps build a repayment record and trust with the bank. This way they're more likely to support us in times of genuine need." Yet, despite this understanding, I couldn't fathom the recent behavior from Wilson, a novice banker lacking even basic social manners and a branch manager seemingly unable to rein her in. It was evident our trust with the bank was eroding, leaving me uneasy about continuing our financial relationship, let alone receiving loans. After discussing with my family, I made a decision. The next day, I visited Trust Bank to convey it. Having informed them in advance, I was promptly shown to the reception room where both the branch manager and Wilson greeted me politely upon my arrival. Facing their bowed heads, I addressed the issue directly. "Regarding the loan, it's fine to terminate it. Fortunately, we haven't utilized it yet, so we will repay it immediately." Upon hearing my words, the branch manager's expression shifted to alarm. "Mr. Smith, please don't worry about the loan. We value our long-standing relationship. I hope we can continue working together," he implored. However, my decision was firm. If I hadn't intervened, Wilson would still be coming to my office, hurling insults and rudeness. "I can't trust a bank that allows such behavior," I stated regretfully. "I'm sorry, but I have to end our relationship. I am truly sorry for what happened. We will take strict action against Wilson, and such an incident will not recur," the manager assured me, attempting to persuade me to reconsider. "Won't you please continue doing business with us?" "No matter what you say, my decision won't change," I replied resolutely, pushing away the branch manager's attempt to persuade me. As he prepared to leave the reception room, the doors suddenly burst open, and a visibly distressed bank employee rushed in. "Excuse me, I must leave," the manager said abruptly, a look of concern on his face as he exited. A woman's voice followed from outside the room, clearly agitated. "When I visited your bank, a banker named Wilson said to me, 'We don't lend money to the incompetent.' What kind of training do you give your bankers?" The manager's reaction confirmed my suspicion that I wasn't the only one affected by Wilson's behavior. "This is," he began, trailing off as his gaze shifted toward Wilson, who nervously bit her nails and muttered to herself. Swiftly approaching Wilson, the branch manager declared, "You're fired as of today. Get out of here right now," pointing to the door. Shocked, Wilson's face turned pale as she stared back at the manager. Then, with a sudden change in demeanor, she made a desperate plea. "Please don't fire me, I beg you." Her hollow apology did little to sway the situation. It was fortunate for us that we didn't rely on the loan, but many businesses must have been seriously affected, I remarked quietly, troubled by the thought of Wilson causing turmoil for others. "Do you have any idea how many valued customers we've lost because of you? Your dismissal is the only option," the manager asserted firmly. Their argument seemed endless, but realizing my time was being wasted, I stood up to address Wilson one last time. "Remember when you said I wouldn't regret it? This is the result. It's all you're doing," I stated firmly, watching as Wilson collapsed in despair. Later, the branch manager returned to inform me of Wilson's dismissal, again pleading for another chance. However, despite his apologies, I remained steadfast in my decision. Wilson's outrageous behavior toward customers and the branch manager's failure to address it adequately were clear signs that ending our business relationship was the right choice. As time passed, I noticed a woman who bore a resemblance to Wilson at a construction site, now tanned and sweating as a traffic guard. It was likely her, the former elite banker reduced to a menial job. Witnessing her in this new role, I hoped it might bring about a change of heart. Meanwhile, our business thrived as we took on landscaping projects for the park that replaced the bank. Seeing our Smith landscape design truck parked during work led to an increase in service requests, including maintenance for shared areas of condominiums and apartment complexes. Adapting to diverse client needs became essential for our continued success as gardeners. I was committed to contributing to our community as a gardener and watching our business grow, thankful to have moved past the challenges posed by Wilson and the bank's upheaval.